Hollywood's golden age, the glitz, the romance, the carefully crafted myths. But behind the velvet ropes and perfectly powdered faces, some of Tinseltown's most iconic legends were living double lives, ducking into police stations while the cameras weren't rolling. Forget the press agent spin. These are the criminal records the studios hoped you'd never hear about. Ready to meet the stars whose off-screen stories were juicier than any script? Grab your popcorn. These Hollywood greats were breaking rules long before it was cool. Robert Mitchum. Robert Mitchum didn't just play roughnecks and rebels, he was one. In 1948, while studios were sweating over family-friendly images, Mitchum was caught in a Los Angeles drug raid with marijuana, hauled off to jail, and handed a 60-day sentence. But here's the kicker. Instead of ducking the cameras, Mitchum posed for his mugshot with the same laconic swagger that made him a film noir icon. He told the press, "It's just like Palm Springs, only with barbed wire." What happened next was pure Hollywood irony. The studios tried to hush it up, fearing box office disaster, but audiences only loved Mitchum more. Instead of tanking his career, the arrest added an outlaw mystique that money couldn't buy. He came back bigger than ever, playing characters who always seemed one step away from a jail cell, and suddenly, that felt dangerously authentic. Mitchum's run-in with the law set the standard for Hollywood cool. Don't just survive a scandal, own it. And in the end, his criminal record became another jewel in his bad boy crown. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn was Hollywood's original wild child, famous for duels, parties, and living like every night was his last. But in 1942, his off-screen adventures landed him in a real-life courtroom, charged with statutory rape, a headline-grabbing scandal that threatened to destroy him. The trial was a media circus, with fans and detractors crowding outside, and Flynn playing the role of devil-may-care rogue even under cross-examination. The details were tawdry, but so was the defense. Flynn claimed he was being set up, and his charisma on the witness stand helped sway public opinion. "In like Flynn" became a catchphrase, not just for his screen exploits, but for his real-life knack for slipping past consequences. Ultimately, he was acquitted, but the trial left a permanent mark. Instead of killing his career, the scandal seemed to add fuel to Flynn's legend. He kept working, his films still drew crowds, and his name became shorthand for living on the edge. In classic Hollywood fashion, Flynn showed you could face the law, walk out the front door, and still be everyone's favorite rogue. Judy Garland. Behind Judy Garland's Technicolor smile was a life haunted by pressure, addiction, and some infamous run-ins with the law. By the late 1940s, Garland's struggle with pills and alcohol spilled out of studio lots and into police blotters. She was arrested multiple times for public intoxication, episodes the press tried to downplay, while MGM's fixers worked overtime to keep her image squeaky clean. For Garland, the legal trouble wasn't about wild rebellion, but exhaustion and heartbreak in an industry that chewed up its brightest stars. Her mugshot never made the glossy magazines, but whispers swirled around Hollywood parties about that night in Beverly Hills. Yet the scandals only deepened the public's fascination. Garland's vulnerability made her performances even more powerful. She became the original tragic starlet, beloved, fragile, and achingly real. Garland's brushes with the law didn't destroy her career, they humanized her. And long after the charges faded, her story served as a cautionary tale about the true cost of fame under Hollywood's unforgiving lights. Charlie Chaplin. You'd think Charlie Chaplin's biggest enemies were pie-throwing villains or bumbling police on celluloid. But in real life, Chaplin's legal troubles were very real and sometimes deeply scandalous. He was dragged into court for everything from messy divorces to a sensational Mann Act charge, accused of transporting a woman across state lines for immoral purposes, plus high-profile paternity suits that kept the tabloids frothing. Chaplin, ever the showman, often used the courtroom as a stage, delivering quips, playing innocent, and sometimes getting the last laugh. But the scandals chipped away at his all-American image, fueling suspicions about his politics and personal life. In the end, Chaplin was acquitted or avoided jail time, but the relentless scrutiny led to his unofficial exile from the United States. The lesson? Even Hollywood's most beloved clowns can wind up as the punchline in a courtroom drama. Chaplin's legal battles proved that the line between genius and scandal was razor thin, and that fame could turn on you, even if you always landed on your feet in the movies. Clara Bo. Clara Bo was Hollywood's original it girl, with a magnetic presence that made silent films sizzle. But behind the scenes, Bo's life was anything but glamorous. She grew up in poverty, fought her way into the spotlight, and earned a reputation for partying as hard as she worked. Bo's name became tabloid gold. She was accused of everything from drunken brawls to wild love affairs. In 1931, she was arrested for disorderly conduct after a raucous night out, and the press leaped on every rumor. Studios panicked, worried that the scandal would tank their biggest star. But Bo refused to apologize for who she was, famously telling reporters, "I live as I please." Rather than breaking her, the legal drama cemented her status as the ultimate Hollywood rebel. The public adored her, flaws and all, and Bo's legend only grew. She blazed a trail for every star who followed, proving that in Tinseltown, sometimes being bad is the best way to stay unforgettable. Clara Bo broke the rules, faced the consequences, and still came out on top, just the way a true it girl should. 6. Fatty Arbuckle. Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle was once the king of silent film slapstick, a household name who turned pies in the face into art. But in 1921, Arbuckle's world exploded in scandal when he was accused of the rape and manslaughter of actress Virginia Rappe after a wild San Francisco hotel party. The press went feral. Arbuckle was arrested and faced 3 separate trials, each one more sensational than the last. Headlines branded him a monster before a single jury was sworn in. Hollywood panicked, studios yanked his films, theaters banned his name, and his reputation evaporated overnight. After 2 hung juries, Arbuckle was finally acquitted. The last jury even issued a rare public apology, declaring him innocent. But the damage was done. Arbuckle's career never fully recovered, and he became a cautionary tale of how quickly fame can turn to infamy. His case remains one of the darkest chapters in Hollywood history, a brutal reminder that sometimes the public's thirst for scandal is stronger than any truth the courts can deliver. Arbuckle's name is forever tied to the birth of the tabloid age, a funny man brought down by a very unfunny trial. 7. Billie Holiday. Billie Holiday's voice was velvet and heartbreak, but her life was tangled with trouble. In 1947, the legendary jazz singer was arrested for heroin possession after a brutal raid in her New York hotel room, a scene ripped straight from a film noir. Holiday's struggle with addiction was well known, but the law showed little mercy. She was convicted and sent to prison for nearly a year, barred from performing in New York nightclubs after her release. Instead of giving up, Holiday poured her pain into her music, turning Strange Fruit and God Bless the Child into anthems of survival. The FBI and federal agents hounded her for the rest of her life, seeing her as both a symbol of rebellion and an easy target. Holiday's criminal record became part of her mystique, proof that true art can bloom from the harshest soil. In the end, her legend only grew. Billie Holiday wasn't just a star, she was a survivor, and her story remains a haunting melody echoing through the halls of old Hollywood justice. Gene Tierney. Gene Tierney's face was the very definition of 1940s glamour, but behind the luminous beauty was a life shadowed by heartbreak and a dash of real-life scandal. In 1957, long after her biggest hits, Tierney was arrested for shoplifting in a Pasadena store. The charges shocked fans, who couldn't picture their elegant screen siren stuffing costume jewelry into a handbag. Tierney, suffering from severe mental health struggles, had disappeared from the limelight before the incident. The shoplifting arrest became a tabloid feeding frenzy, but also a rare glimpse behind the curtain at the pressures Hollywood's Golden Girls endured. Instead of hiding, Tierney sought help, bravely speaking about her struggles with bipolar disorder, a move nearly unheard of at the time. The scandal didn't erase her legacy. If anything, it humanized her. Tierney's story is a reminder that even the most perfect Hollywood stars sometimes falter, and sometimes a fall from grace can be the first step to real healing. Lila Lee. Lila Lee was once dubbed the good little bad girl of silent films, a nickname that proved truer than fans knew. By the late 1940s, her career was sputtering, and Lee's off-screen troubles began making more headlines than her movies. In 1947, she was arrested for public drunkenness after a wild night out in Los Angeles, the kind of scandal that was catnip for gossip columnists. Lee's arrest wasn't her only brush with trouble. Rumors of financial woes and brushes with bootleggers haunted her later years. Studios distanced themselves, but Lee, ever the survivor, faced the music with surprising candor. She later called her arrest a wake-up call, but the stigma clung to her. Despite attempts at a comeback, Lee's once golden reputation faded into old Hollywood legend, another starlet tripped up by the city's sharp edges. Yet, for those who remember, Lee's story is less about her downfall and more about the fierce honesty she showed in facing it. In a town built on illusions, sometimes a scandal can make you more real than ever. Frances Farmer. If you want a story of Hollywood versus the law, Frances Farmer's life is Exhibit A. Beautiful, brilliant, and utterly defiant, Farmer raged against the studio system and paid the price. Throughout the 1940s, Farmer was arrested multiple times for assault and public disturbances, often after spectacular public meltdowns. Her most notorious arrest came in 1943 when, after a traffic stop, she allegedly attacked police officers and was dragged to jail in front of reporters. The mugshot is infamous. Farmer wild-eyed, hair disheveled, refusing to play the role of the good girl gone bad. Hollywood shunned her, the courts declared her mentally ill, and Farmer was institutionalized for years, her real-life drama eclipsing any role she ever played. Decades later, she's remembered less for her movies than for her fearless battle against a system that wanted to break her spirit. Frances Farmer became a legend not just for her talent, but for her fight, a star whose criminal record wasn't a stain, but a badge of brutal honesty in a city built on beautiful lies. Talula Bankhead. Talula Bankhead was the kind of star who never apologized for a single wild moment, on or off the stage. She conquered both Broadway and Hollywood, but it was a scandal across the pond that gave her legend its first serious edge. In 1928, while starring in London's West End, Bankhead was arrested for possession of drugs, a charge the British tabloids devoured. Talula handled the uproar with typical bravado, winking at the press and dismissing the charge as all part of the show. She spent a short time in custody before being released, but the arrest only made her more infamous. Instead of shrinking away, Bankhead used the scandal to build her persona. She was the daring, irrepressible rebel who did what she pleased and told the world to keep up. Hollywood couldn't resist, and she went on to star in films and radio, her off-screen reputation as colorful as her performances. For Talula, the law was just another script to rewrite, and scandal, another spotlight. In Wallace Reed. Wallace Reed was the silent era's golden boy, handsome, athletic, and adored. But behind the scenes, Reed's life unraveled under the weight of injury and addiction. After a train accident in the early 1920s, he became addicted to morphine, prescribed by doctors but illegal for non-medicinal use. Reed's struggle led to secret arrests for possession and run-ins with authorities as he spiraled deeper into dependency. The studio tried desperately to hide his addiction, worried that a public scandal would destroy their most bankable star. In 1923, Reed died tragically young, and the truth came out. Hollywood's golden boy had been a prisoner of his own pain, hounded by the law as well as his own demons. His story shocked the public and sparked a wave of industry reforms on addiction and studio responsibility. Reed's criminal record is more a tale of tragedy than rebellion, a reminder that even the brightest stars can be undone by the city's darkest temptations. Mae West. Mae West was never afraid to push boundaries, but in 1927, she pushed so hard she landed behind bars. Her Broadway play Sex was a box office smash and a moral outrage. The authorities raided the theater, arrested West, and charged her with corrupting the morals of youth. Mae didn't flinch. She served 8 days in jail, turning the experience into free publicity and instantly boosting her profile as the baddest, boldest woman in showbiz. After her release, West wisecracked to reporters, "Jail is a great place to write. I met a lot of interesting people I wouldn't have otherwise." Hollywood took notice, and Mae West became a star not just for her wit and curves, but for her fearless attitude. She was hauled into court several more times over her career, for obscenity, for innuendo, for jokes the censors just couldn't handle. In Mae's world, scandal wasn't a setback. It was a shortcut to immortality. She taught Tinseltown that sometimes the naughtiest girls have the last laugh. Mooney. Paul Mooney was known for his intense, often brooding screen performances, but his temper wasn't just for show. In the 1930s, during a heated argument with a theater critic outside a New York nightclub, Mooney was arrested for assault after allegedly striking the man in full view of startled patrons. While the charges were later dropped, the incident stuck to Mooney like stage makeup, proving that even the era's serious actors had moments of very public indiscretion. The press loved the irony. A man famous for playing tough, troubled souls was, it turned out, just as combustible off-screen. Mooney later admitted the episode was a regrettable loss of control, but it did nothing to dim his reputation for authenticity. In a world obsessed with appearances, Mooney's brush with the law made him all the more believable. He brought that same rawness back to his roles, forever blurring the line between the men on the marquee and the men outside the stage door. Peter Lorre, the unforgettable villain with the haunted stare, brought an otherworldly tension to every role. Off-screen, though, his struggle with addiction landed him in serious legal hot water. In the late 1940s, Lorre was arrested for drug possession after years of battling dependency, a secret Hollywood tried desperately to keep out of the headlines. The studio system went into crisis mode, hiding him from the press and whisking him off to rest cures between films. But the arrest was real, and so was the fallout. Lorre was sidelined from major projects and forced to reckon with his health and career. Despite the scandal, Lorre clawed his way back, leveraging his notoriety into an even deeper, more vulnerable screen presence. Fans forgave him, and maybe loved him more for his flawed humanity. Peter Lorre's criminal record didn't ruin his legacy, it deepened it, adding another layer of darkness to a performer who already knew all about shadows. Dorothy Dandridge. Dorothy Dandridge was a trailblazer, the first black actress nominated for a Best Actress Oscar, but Hollywood didn't make her journey easy. In 1952, while at a whites-only hotel in Los Angeles, Dandridge was arrested for improper conduct. Her crime? Using the hotel's swimming pool, which was strictly segregated. The incident was humiliating, but Dandridge refused to be shamed. She spoke out about the double standards she faced, using the scandal as a platform to challenge racial injustice in show business. The studio bosses scrambled for damage control, but Dandridge's fans saw her as a hero, standing up for her rights with grace and fire. This brush with the law didn't end her career. It made her an icon of dignity and defiance. Dorothy Dandridge's arrest was more than a scandal. It was a flashpoint in the long fight for equality in Hollywood and a testament to the courage it took to be a star in her time. Hedi Lamar. Hedi Lamar dazzled audiences with her beauty and brains. She was both a glamorous leading lady and an inventor whose ideas helped pave the way for modern Wi-Fi, but the tabloids only wanted to talk about scandal. In the early 1960s, with other sources hinting at earlier incidents, Lamar was arrested for shoplifting from department stores in Los Angeles. The press reveled in the irony. How could Hollywood's most beautiful woman be caught pinching $21 worth of cosmetics? Lamar claimed it was all a misunderstanding, but the damage was done. Her reputation took a hit, but Lamar refused to be defined by the headlines. She bounced back with candor and wit, becoming an outspoken advocate for privacy and creativity in later years. Hedi Lamar's shoplifting arrest is a reminder that genius often goes unrecognized and that even the brightest stars have their cloudy days. Her story? Not a cautionary tale, but a celebration of complexity. Montgomery Clift. Montgomery Clift was the brooding heartthrob of the post-war screen, talented, sensitive, and haunted. In the 1950s, as personal struggles took their toll, Clift was arrested several times for public drunkenness and disorderly conduct in both New York and Los Angeles. Unlike the controlled chaos of his roles, Clift's real-life turmoil spilled out in public, and the police blotters quickly took notice. Studios feared the worst, quietly pulling strings to keep the scandals out of the headlines, but the truth got out anyway. Fans didn't turn away. If anything, Clift's visible vulnerability only deepened his mystique. His raw, emotional performances seemed even more authentic, a window into the pain that shaped him both on and off the screen. Clift's run-ins with the law never dimmed his star. Instead, they made his legend real, a reminder that even Hollywood's most beautiful faces sometimes hide the deepest scars. Frank Sinatra. Before he was the chairman of the board, Frank Sinatra was the king of scandals. In 1938, long before Rat Pack glory, a young Sinatra was arrested in New Jersey for seduction, a charge brought against men accused of promising marriage to get a woman into bed, then leaving her reputation in ruins. Sinatra was booked, fingerprinted, and photographed for one of the most notorious celebrity mugshots of the era. The charge was soon dropped, but the image stuck, a reminder that even crooners could land in cuffs. Sinatra didn't just survive the scandal, he practically used it as rocket fuel. The bad boy image gave him an edge, turning him from a skinny kid singer into an icon of rebellious cool. In a world obsessed with spotless reputations, Sinatra showed that a little trouble could make you unforgettable and proved, once and for all, that Hollywood's golden age was never as squeaky clean as it seemed. So, who really wrote the rules in old Hollywood, the studios or the stars with secrets stuffed in their pockets? Scandal didn't just happen off-set, it shaped the legends we still worship today. From mugshots to redemption, these icons proved that breaking the law was sometimes just another act in a much bigger drama. Which Golden Age scandal floored you, and who surprised you the most? Sound off in the comments, hit subscribe, and stay tuned, because in Hollywood, the truth is always stranger than fiction.